Ohio State may be the team to beat as the ones that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Penn State, I think, shows some hesitancy in their passing game. Ohio State, clearly, if you put the gas on, they are that team. As we're going to talk about Texas, Texas kind of looks sloppy in the second half, and they've lost twice to Georgia. So, and Georgia's rocking on a secondary quarterback. So, Ohio State looks the most healthy, the most on key right now to potentially make a run.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beardzone Sports Talk. My name is David. I got Scooter with me tonight. We hope you guys have had a fantastic beginning to your new year. Hope you guys had a great Christmas. A lot of family, a lot of food, a lot of friends. It was probably a lot of traveling for most people. A lot of adult beverages, most likely as well, over the past couple weeks. But we hope you guys have had a fantastic kick off to your 2025. This year in college football, it's been a fantastic kickoff, and we're going to dive into all of it, Scooter, because we've been blessed with all of the bowl games over the past 24 hours. Really quick, Georgia, Notre Dame postponed due to the very unfortunate events that happened in New Orleans. We're praying for everyone that has been affected by that. You hate to see it. Don't care what political aisle you're on. You hate to see that when another human being has to lose their life at the hands of just some jackass that decides to do that. So T's and P's to all those people. But before we get into all of the bowl games, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, as that is the best way to continue to support us this college season. Scooter, I wish that these games. Okay. I'm disappointed in a lot of these games. We talked about it a little bit. Unfortunately, we should have had an episode last week. File got corrupted. What are you going to do about it? But we did talk about it a little bit last week with what we saw from the first rounds of the college football playoffs. And I mean, it was kind of obvious to see why some of the teams, were obviously lower seed teams that you don't necessarily always see in the college football playoffs. I get it. It's fun. It's exciting to allow a smaller team, a smaller school to have their chance to fight their way to the top. But I mean, the cards are stacked against them, and it was going to be a hard battle. But we had Boise State, Penn State 2 nights ago, or actually last night, but 2 nights ago when you're listening to this. And Ashton Jeanty, from coming off what should have been, or what was a Heisman performance, right, of a year, although he didn't win, it was definitely deserved if he would have won that trophy. But man, Penn State's defense came and showed up. And that offensive line of Boise State, something that has been so key for the success of Jeanty all year long. Honestly, man, they look like that they never played a snap together. I mean, just the different blitz schemes and packages that the Penn State defense was able to put up against Boise State was not a good look. Penn State got away with the win and moved on to the next round pretty easily. But what were your takes from that game?
Well, Penn State's defense, if you're wearing the number 11 and you're an outside linebacker or DN, you're just a 5-star athlete and you're going pro. I think that's what we've learned with Micah Parsons and Chop Robinson, and now this new guy. He's going to pro. I think he got injured late, and it's probably not going to affect him for the combine and so forth. But Penn State finally decided to start playing in clutch games. That's what the playoffs are, is when can you be clutch? When can you be consistent? What we saw from them offensively, yeah, Drew Aller threw for 3 touchdowns and whatever, but the yardage really wasn't all that important. It was like 170 yards. But their run game is ridiculous. That's for their offense for Penn State. The defense, I feel like Boise State got out schemed. Our offense couldn't keep moving with Penn State's front seven. Man, they were doing all sorts of stunts and substitutions, and their cornerbacks were basically playing man up the entire game. And as we know with Boise State, they're a run-first offense, and Madsen's 3 interceptions didn't help at all. There's no passing game. Yeah, he threw for 300 yards, and they had some pretty clutch moments in the back half of the game. But when you stop Genty to only 100 yards and 0 touchdowns at that, those 30 carries, they don't get you much except for wearing them down. And yeah, they're like, oh, it's was it the meme with Eddie Lacy when Genty gets a prime
I
offense
saw
or
that.
defense?
Don't do Genty like that.
And
Don't
internet
do
win.
Genty like that.
No, I mean internet gold there. But at the same token here, you had a kicker who was inconsistent and missed for Boise State twice. You also had that touchdown pass by Madsen early on that got called back for, I think it was hands to the face by their right tackle. And I totally understand hands to the face because the front five for Boise State were just getting destroyed. And it's not like Madsen was getting sacked left and right, like his name's Dylan Gabriel, but he was getting attacked and pressured and thrown off balance and everything else. And if you watch a quarterback's game, there was no comfort from Madsen in the or even outside. Dude, running like he was Mahomes in the Super Bowl against the Bucs. It was ridiculous. That's how Penn State won. They created chaos in the backfield for Boise State. They shut the run down by putting at least 5 guys on the line and just manning up on the DBs, man. Like, kudos to James Franklin for this game. I mean, obviously SMU and then Boise State, you're looking like you have the easy route. I would say yes, that is the easy route. But Boise State was no slump in this game. I think this was the toughest match for Penn State to move forward. And I think the winner of this plays, what was it, Georgia and Notre Dame? Yeah. So I like Penn State. They're making their comeback from the Paterno era. I don't know if it's sustainable given the last 2 wins, and now you're going to go up potentially against arguably the best defense or the second best defense.
Yeah, Notre Dame and Georgia, those 2 defenses are going to be crazy. And that game is just going to be awesome. I cannot wait to watch that game. It's going to be very old school. Just you got to win in the trenches, and that's exactly what Penn State did against Boise State. They won in the trenches because if you look overall, right, they outperformed them as far as stat wise. Boise State had 412 yards to Penn State 387. Maddox, he threw for that 304 yards to Drew Aller. Is that how you pronounce his last?
Aller.
Yeah, Drew Aller 171. The rushing game was clearly the difference, and those turnovers definitely made made the game what it was. But I mean, hey, kudos to Boise State for making it. They had a rough loss there against Clemson. People were wondering if they were actually going to get in. Or I'm sorry, that was SMU. I'm thinking of a completely different team. But I mean, Boise State. I mean, with the year that they've had with Ashton Genty, and just the year overall. I mean, it's been a good year. Penn State, man, making a comeback. This defense is, man. I mean, this is just old school football. When I look at this Penn State team, I just think old school. The passing isn't. They don't rely on their quarterback. They rely on their running back. They rely on their run game, and they rely on this front five on defense. I mean, and those guys get after it. I mean, when you can pressure the quarterback, I don't care what quarterback you are. You mentioned it. When Patrick Mahomes went up against the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there was nothing he could do. Literally nothing. I mean, he tried everything, right? I mean, throw him parallel to the ground, hitting guys in the face mask. I mean, what are you going to do? But I mean, when your quarterback is under that much duress, yeah. And they were playing from behind pretty much the whole game. So I feel like that it was hard for them to go, okay, hey, let's go to our bread and butter. Let's go to our run game, because I feel like that they almost felt like that they had to force the pass game to try and stay up with Penn State. And so they got hit in the mouth right out of the gate. And unfortunately they just were not able to recover from it. So 31-14, Penn State gets the big win. They go now up against the winner of that Georgia and Notre Dame game. I would love to see, and it's only just because of the slander that you and Carlos have said this entire year, but I would love to see Penn State versus Notre Dame, and one of those two teams will make it to the national championship game. I would absolutely love that. So, and who knows? Maybe we will, because we don't know what this quarterback is going to do for Georgia, because we know that Carson Beck is out. So we'll see what happens. I still like Georgia, though. We'll get into that here in just a little bit. But let's talk about the other game that honestly was probably the biggest disappointment. This was supposed to be the game that it was supposed to be, a battle all the way to the end, just like they did early on in this year. And Oregon got that 1-point victory over Ohio State. And Ohio State, no, my friend, we have your number. And they came out, and at halftime, it was 34-8.
Yep.
The offense for Oregon, that fast offense for Oregon, looked like they had bricks for feet. They couldn't move the ball for nothing. And their defense, I don't know what the hell they were doing. I really don't. But Ohio State, I don't think I've seen Ohio State move the ball with such ease up and down the field this entire year than they did up against the Oregon Ducks this afternoon. But Ohio State gets the big victory, 41-21. They move on. They're one game away from the national championship. What's your takeaways? They took out the number one seed.
I mean, there were no takeaways in this game, which was actually kind of interesting to watch. Oregon just got completely exposed. It was a revenge game from Ohio State. I hate watching Ohio State win, but they absolutely crushed it. I don't know what facet of offense you want to cover for Ohio State, but they just destroyed them. Like, Oregon's defense couldn't basically touch Will Howard. I don't think they got 0 sacks to 8 sacks. Ohio State sacked Dylan Gabriel 8 times and caused the run game for Oregon to go -23. Now, Jordan.
I saw that stat. That's impressive.
Yeah, that's bad. I mean, but he was running. Again, the defensive pressure to the quarterback upset this entire game. The rhythm in run game dependency for Oregon is their staple. It's always been that way since Chip Kelly to now. They're very dynamic. They do the screens, they do the swing passes, and it wins them games. But when you shut them down on their read options and these quick passes, dude, they get destroyed. And I hate watching it, man. I was a huge Mariota fan and LaMichael James and all of them. And watching this Oregon team, I'm like, they were number one, but it changes every single week in preparations and everything else. Dan Lanning got exposed. They went for it on 4th and 1, 4th and 3, 4th and 13, and they couldn't do anything. Oregon's never been known to have a good kicker, clearly, because they don't trust them. Same thing with Boise State. Same thing with Arizona State. Kickers win games. Obviously, Ohio State's kicker sucked the week in Michigan and lost him a game. Now he's fine. But 0 turnovers on both sides. Absolutely great. But the run game got destroyed. Jordan James for Oregon, he got hurt very early. I don't know how much that really affected them because they're very dynamic. No, Whittington's usually their secondary guy. He got stomped. He had 3 rushing yards, man. Like, their longest rush was 11 yards, and I think that was like the first run. And Dylan Gabriel threw for 42 times, or 41 times, sorry. But if you're throwing that much, you've clearly been shut down on the other half of your game. Defensively, 0 sacks against Ohio State. You're not going to get anything from that. Like, there was 0 coverage. There was 0 pressure. Oregon's defense was playing on their heels like they were playing in middle school, and they didn't know how to cover a wide receiver. They were leaving dudes so open. And what's his name for Ohio State?
Well, they've actually,
Jeremiah Smith was triple covered and still caught the ball. Will Howard, yes, he's a pass guy first. Is he the greatest guy in the draft? Probably not. But he was putting it out there, and that freshman Jeremiah Smith is just straight up exposing whole defenses, and he's looking like he's T.O. or Julio Jones esque. And that wide receiver core for Ohio State might as well just look just like LSU's wide receiver cores for the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now.
yeah,
And I think Ohio State, oh, God, I almost had a heart attack. Sorry. Ohio State may be the team to beat as the ones that we've seen so far.
yeah,
Penn State, I think, shows some hesitancy in their passing game. Ohio State, clearly, if you put the gas on, they are that team. As we're going to talk about Texas, Texas kind of looks sloppy in the second half, and they've lost twice to Georgia. So, and Georgia's rocking on a secondary quarterback. So, Ohio State looks the most healthy, the most on key right now to potentially make a run.
yeah, definitely. I mean, sorry, just wanted to make a little note there. So
No,
someone
I
that
do
I
not like
actually,
Ohio State. Don't put that down there. I still
no,
think they suck.
I just time stamped it, so I don't know what to tell you. Someone that I want to talk about. I don't want to take away anything from Jeremiah Smith. I don't want to take anything away from Will Howard. Both of those guys showed up. They showed up big in the big time moment. But there has been a guy on Ohio State who has been a home run hitter, and that's exactly what he was once again today for them. And that's Trayvon Henderson. 8 carries,
Absolutely.
94 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He averaged almost 12 yards a carry this game. And if you look at his season stats, he only has 118 carries for 831 yards. He averages 7 yards a carry, and he's seen the end zone 8 times as well. This guy is a home run hitter, and he makes that offense that much. It's hard to defend when you have someone like that in the backfield, and then you still have this wide receiver group with a quarterback that can deliver the ball like Will Howard. I think you're right. I think Ohio State is a team to be on the radar of every one of these, the last 3 teams that will be remaining. Because if you look at all the other ones, there's some question marks, and it's crazy to think that we're sitting here and we're saying that there's, some promise here with Ohio State, because this is the team that lost to Michigan at the end of the year. This is a team that started to really kind of lose a lot of their momentum here towards the end of the year. And somehow they have picked it back up and they have found their way one game away from the national championship game. They're going to have a good, I think it's going to be a good game against Texas. But we'll see. But let's go into that Texas game, because this game was the game of the week. Double
Absolutely.
overtime, ASU, the tale of two halves for sure. But let's talk about just the last 5 minutes of this game. Because in the last 5 minutes of this game, ASU came back. It was, what was it, 24 to like 8 or something like that. Because
Yeah.
they scored a field goal and then they did a safety, I think. I don't even know how they got to 5. I was watching the game, and I was at a cigar lounge with a buddy of mine, and I was watching the game, and then we got into a conversation because the game wasn't interesting. And then I look up, and I'm like, oh, they just scored a field goal. Wait, why do they have 8? Do they have a safety somewhere in there? So I don't know what happened, but it was 24 to 8. And then 5 minutes to go in the game, they scored a touchdown. They went for 2. Okay, now we're having a ball game. Then you go and you look at, and then the defense comes out. The defense comes out, and there was someone on that defense that I want to mention. Oh man, they don't have any of his name. I think his name is like Keith Abney or something like that. It's the ASU's defensive back. He's number 1 on the team. That's like his jersey
Yeah, it's Keith
number.
Abney.
Keith Abney. This guy is a sophomore, and this guy was making big time plays there at the end of the game. He had a crazy interception where he just completely undercut the ball that Ewers threw, took the ball away. They got the ball back, and then they marched right down the field to, score a touchdown. Another guy who, man, I love this kid. And it's Cameron, how do you pronounce that? Scatabo?
Scattaboo. Cam
Scattaboo.
Scattaboo.
This
Absolute
guy
tank.
100% has CTE after this game with all of the looks that he was given. But this guy was electric the entire ball game. He threw that touchdown pass to make it an 8-point game, and then he went ahead and punched it in from the goal line to tie up this ball game. This game got really interesting really fast, and I mean, there at the end, I was talking to you about this, Scooter. We were chatting in our group chat when ASU started making this a game. The Texas kicker, I don't know if he had money on the line or something like that, but this guy was trying everything in his power to lose this game for Texas. And I swear every time that Texas got a first down, they got a false start. So it's 1st and 15. The fact that they ended up winning this game blows my mind, and it worries me for having to go into the next round. But gosh dang, ASU, they're going to be a good team to watch, and I love the Sun Devils right now.
Yeah, ASU moving forward in the Big 12, they may just win like the next 2 to 3 years. It's kind of ridiculous. Scattaboo's going to leave. He's going to go pro. That's a known. But I think what you saw here was Sarkisian just out coaching his competition with Campbell. I mean, yeah, he kind of blundered the second half, but he was like, okay, cool, we're going to do this overtime thing. This is not my first rodeo. We did this for Georgia and barely lost. So here we go. And I think Abney was robbed of his interception. He was very locked down. He did not give his edge up at all. Absolute stellar dude. I believe he's a sophomore, so we'll keep seeing him. But I think what you saw in this game was Texas thought they had it in the bag and got comfortable. And Arizona State was like, you know what, we're gonna give him hell. And Scatterby was like, yeah, I'll take 4 concussions during this game and just keep going. That's basically what he did, dude. His leg almost. If you look at this guy, he's just like he's like David Montgomery, but white. He's just a big muscle guy, and he doesn't go down. I'm like, if you're looking at a running back and you're looking like you're the Dallas Cowboys, you probably should take this guy. Or if you need anything else, probably grab some defense. But Cam Scattaboo, spectacular guy all around. When he leaves ASU, absolutely needs to find somebody to give the ball to. Quinn Ewers, he looked fine until the second half, and he started making these weird, risky throws, and he threw a pick. And I think that's where the momentum shifted. And their kicker, and this is, we watch a lot of football, and I know our families hate it. But when the announcers, commentators, whoever say he's 9 of 9 inside of the 40, he's only missed 4 kicks all year.
That's it.
You are inherently jinxing the kicker to do something dumb. Name any Bills team that's like, we're gonna win the game wide right. So he gets like a foot or two to the right on the first kick, right? And then you watch how he plants in the second kick, and you're like, oh, okay. And then he shifted his body like halfway through his delivery and his kick. And it was just like, we're going to go doink the left upright. If I were Sarkisian and talking to that kid before that kick, I'd be like, if you miss this, you're no longer on the team.
Well, that's the thing. He was having a conversation with him.
I know.
I looked at my buddy who I was at the lounge with, and I was like, it's over. Like, there's no way that he's going to miss the second kick. And then he does. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
From a spectating standpoint, from a football fan standpoint, like the ASU Texas game, absolutely spectacular. That is what the playoffs were meant to give you, right? And everyone's saying, oh, ASU didn't deserve to be number 4. I think what we saw here is, yeah, probably, but they just couldn't put 4 quarters together. Those 5, they had 3 points in the first half, man. That is insane.
Yeah, it was bad.
And from a defensive standpoint, they were almost for 1. Like the ASU defense in the second half was just giving it to Texas, man. And saying that the game was SEC versus Big 12. What you actually got was a Big 12 Pac-12 game historically. So I would love to see Arizona State back in this. I know that they were kind of a long shot to begin with. If I had another holistic team to look at, it's Texas. I mean, if we had power rankings in the playoff, if we had to adjust, we haven't seen Georgia play. We haven't seen Notre Dame come back and play a legitimate game yet. So I would argue right now it looks like OSU and then Texas, given that we haven't seen the Notre Dame Georgia game. But Texas, they have some gap to fill on their O line because if I'm Quinn Ewers and I'm getting sacked 3 times by a team that you were favored by like 2 scores, Sarkisian's got to get at that O line, dude.
Yeah.
Their run game was 53 yards. Come on. Like Texas is known to be an all-around team, and you couldn't barely get to 60 yards. You barely crest over 50. So I don't know if Quinn Ewers, and I saw this when we were watching the game, Quinn Ewers is supposed to be in the top 3 for the draft, and I would argue that he's not because of his style of game. He's not like a electrifying dude. He's not going to gun it down the whole field. And what I saw in the second half, and obviously in the next few games we'll be able to see some more of him, is how does he hit those tight windows, and how does that translate? Because the wide receiving core for Texas is probably second to OSU, and they're good. They're quick. They run option routes a lot with Sarkisian's offense, but I would love to see how Quinn Ewers goes up against I don't want to discount ASU, but a next level defense.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. I mean, it was a heartbreak, man. I was going for. I'm a big underdog guy. I like to root for the underdogs, and I know that ASU was the underdog in this one. And man, I mean, to know that it was just right there, and then they weren't able to finish it out. But as soon as Texas scored that really fast
Yeah, you knew they were
touchdown,
gassed.
it was like, okay, that's pretty much the writing on the wall. Um, and the quarterback, I mean, for ASU, give him credit, but gosh dang, man, he didn't throw 1 touchdown. I mean, he ran. Don't get me wrong, he ran the ball very well. He got that huge first down on what was that, 3rd and 15 or something like that. So
It was like 3rd and 15, and they were just about to get into the goal,
yeah,
1st and goal, and all that, and he just said, "All right, I'm gonna take it."
yeah, it looked like Jaden
Okay.
Daniels out there. So it
Yeah.
was ridiculous. So, but let's get into the final game. When we planned to record today, we thought that we were going to be able to have the reaction of all the games, but again, like I said, due to the tragic events there in New Orleans, again, thoughts and prayers to every victim that was, involved in that very unfortunate incident. It just kind of pisses me off, Scooter. You know what I mean? But anyway, um, Georgia Bulldogs, Notre Dame, Fighting Irish. I've heard all year long about how Penn State and Notre Dame don't belong here from you and Carlos. All year long. And all year long, they have proven you two wrong. They have gotten their way into this position. Notre Dame only has 1 loss, and it was that weird, like, week 2 upset when they lost to Northern Illinois. So it was just kind of like, what the heck just happened? Um, so I
Yeah.
mean, but they've been a very good team. And it's funny because both of these teams are very different in how they approach the game. Georgia Bulldogs, they are a pass heavy offense. They like to throw the ball. Carson Beck is their guy. Now it's going to be weird to see how the backup quarterback, what's his name? I don't even know the guy's name. It's
Stockton.
probably Stockton. So it's going to be interesting to see how Stockton does with that. I mean, the guy got decapitated against Texas. So, I mean, hopefully he's well and recovered from that. But then you look at Notre Dame's offense, and this team, they're they're not really heavy in the pass. But who is it? Jeremiah Love, their running back,
Yeah.
is a fantastic running back. He's a really good guy. They are a ground about pound team. They like to wear you out. They like to wear you out. They like to have the defense get fatigued, and then they just outplay you. Their game is long term, and that's what kind of scares me with this Georgia team, because something that we have seen from time to time again, every single game this year with Georgia, is they do not play a complete 4 quarters. They
They
just
haven't
don't.
all year, man. It's wild.
They don't. And that's something that I think that the Georgia Bulldogs should be worried about with this Notre Dame off or team, is because this team plays the long game. They will
Yeah.
outlast you with the way that they play. And so the Georgia Bulldogs might find themselves fighting there at the end, and they might just get outworked. But it should be a good game. It should be very interesting to see how both um, coaching schemes and, what is it, the tactic, I guess you can say, to go up against the other side of the ball. But both defenses are really good as well. But it's going to be just, hey, Notre Dame, you got to stop the pass. Georgia, you got to stop the run. So it's going to be who can play their best and their weakest part. Notre Dame has to rely more on their passing. Georgia has to rely more on their running. So should be an interesting game. I'm excited for it.
Dude. And I would love to take a look at the injury list one more time. And I thought ETN wasn't going to be in it, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be out. And you said Georgia likes to pass the ball. Having their backup with limited experience, he's still a pretty high caliber recruit. I don't know how that changes with Georgia. Kirby Smart's been pretty consistent with how he wants to run his balanced offense. They just tend to excel a little bit more through the air. What you have with Notre Dame, let's be real, it's a read option offense. And Leonard is not your best passer. He tends to kind of make some wonky throws, or he chooses to scramble more than he probably should. If you shut down Love in the backfield, I don't really see Notre Dame winning unless Georgia just can't score, which would be kind of strange. Defensively, I think it's pretty even. I think the edge kind of goes to Notre Dame, but then at least in the secondary is fantastic. So I guess the backup quarterback Stockton for Georgia is going to have a challenge there, and I guess if he's legit, we'll see. But I want to say the edge and defense goes to Notre Dame, but who have they played? Whereas Georgia, you could say, yeah, they lost to Bama. That sucks. But lost to Georgia Tech when you shouldn't. So I don't know where. And they beat Texas twice. One was in super overtime, basically, for the SEC championship. Whereas Notre Dame has had an incredible long time before their last game. They played SMU, or no. My God, my memory sucks. It must be all the holiday drinking. But Notre Dame, to me, if you shut them down on the run game, like who you gonna play? Like what are you gonna do? Leonard's not a passer. Why do you think Duke was like, okay, cool, you can leave. No problem. NIL between Duke and Notre Dame is almost irrelevant because of the money. But come on, man. Like I don't know how Georgia loses this game unless like Stockton just throws like 3 interceptions, like his name's Carson Beck, and they don't play 4 quarters. Because clearly Georgia could play half a game in the second half and still win.
Yeah, and they can. My only thing is you mentioned, and this has been your argument all year long with Notre Dame and Penn State, is who have they played? Who has been their test? But this year in college football doesn't make any sense. You have Ohio State that lost to Michigan. but they just beat Oregon, right?
Yep.
Oregon was undefeated. You have Alabama, who beat Georgia, but they just lost to Michigan.
Yeah.
So, like, nothing is making sense. And Texas, honestly, should have lost to ASU. You know, I mean, realistically, let's be real. They fumbled that ball and they got lucky that they got out of there with the win. So, and when Texas played a big time SEC team for the first time, got their asses handed to them. But then
Oh yeah.
they had a better performance, the second go around against Georgia, and they almost got the W. So I hear what you're saying about what's been the test, but until one of these teams proves that they don't belong, I'm going Fighting Irish, man. I like them. I like and they're the underdogs, so I'm the underdog guy, you know. So I,
Which betting are you using? Which matchup predictor are you using? Because clearly, now what I love about
wait, is Georgia the underdog in this one?
yeah, by like 5 percentage points, and it's only because I think Carson Beck got injured, and they may not have ETN as well. So a much like the NFL, it's every given Sunday, right?
Yeah,
In bowl season and now this playoff, right? What we're seeing is what team shows up, right? Clearly, the committee thought you needed to be in the playoff. What we saw in the first round was okay, maybe the seeding is probably wrong. Got it. Whatever. Second round, you have the number one team get basically exposed the entire game. Like the first half was kind of concerning. And then you have Texas struggle against an ASU team, which everyone was like, I don't know why ASU is ranked, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know why they're even in this conversation. ACC, SEC, blah, 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 blah. SEC is getting spanked by secondary Big Ten teams right now, whether it's Alabama or South Carolina. And now we're going to have a conversation about a team that doesn't have a conference, only plays historical matchups, and yeah, USC beat A&M, but I'm pretty sure half that defense wasn't playing for A&M. They're going to the pros or whatever, or they've already gone to the transfer portal, which is a completely different conversation. But now you have Georgia, who's been tested and tested and tested between, I don't know, man. You could go back to probably Stafford era to now, and they've been a consistent threat to the SEC championship. Now you no longer have Saban, and now you have Kirby Smart, and kind of taking the reins over in the dynasty type builds. So and this is why I don't like Notre Dame. One, they're very overrated, probably since late 80s. They've been to the national championship game, I believe, twice since, and they got destroyed. Freeman's got the top head coach in college football. I got it. He's good, whatever. But who have you played? You beat Army, you beat Navy, you beat USC. You lost to Northern Illinois. Like, what? And I think from a conference standpoint, if you're looking at any conference taking Notre Dame, it'd be the Atlantic Coast Conference, ACC, because everything else, that's what they're in. And if the ACC wants to try and pull them in and get some money, this would be the game, the so what game for them. This would be the so what game for all of Notre Dame that says, we are here, we are legit, and we're here to win a championship. If they get spanked by a second string quarterback, which I'm sure FSU fans right now are like, why are they in the playoff? Then they don't deserve to be there. They don't deserve to be there until they join a conference. And I'm going to die on that hill. You haven't won a championship since like the 80s.
yeah. Look,
And
man,
SMU
I think,
survived 2 death penalties to get to here. When you get and this is, I like ESPN, I really do, I like their analysts, but the Kool-Aid and the money behind OSU, Texas, Notre Dame, Bama, anything SEC basically, but it's all these historic schools, and they're like blah 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 blah. I just want to watch them get turned off, like turned wrong. Like it's Georgia is the team to beat in my eyes in this playoff, and I don't want Notre Dame to ever be in the playoff. And I understand that's really biased, but I'm really tired of these analysts. Like everyone buyed in on South Carolina, and they lost to Illinois. Everyone buyed in on Bama, and Jalen Milroe looked like he was still playing high school football, and they lost to a 7-5 Michigan team. So if you're going to sit here and drink the Kool-Aid and all the money that's given to you by these conferences, then and Notre Dame, because we know they come with money, then if they don't win, just own it. And they're like, that's why I don't like it. And everyone's always been against Georgia, and except for Georgia fans.
Well, I mean, the hate always begins at the top, you know. So I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
that's just how it is. But should let us know down there in the comments who you guys have for this game. And we were going to do our national championship predictions, but with Carlos, not going to be back with us from his travels until next week. We're going to go ahead and save until we see the Final Four. Let's see the Final Four, and then we'll make our predictions. For next week for the national championship. But it's coming to an end. It is definitely coming to an end, and it's been an impressive college football season, and I'm excited to see what the offseason holds. We will continue to bring content during the offseason as well, so don't you worry about that. But if you're riding with us all the way at the end of this, we definitely appreciate it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, because that really is the best way to support us. It helps us grow, helps us get into that algorithm that is insane to try and figure out. So, but we appreciate you guys that have been rocking with us since the very beginning, and share it with your family and friends because that also helps us out. So, but until next Thursday.
Beardzone